In today's episode, we find the location of a massacre so bloody it inspired a scene in Game of Thrones, share some of the VX220's main flaws, and explore one of the UK's greatest natural wonders. Enjoy!
Excellent.
Successful start to the day. We didn't make the same mistake as we made yesterday. We have arrived very early for our ferry. Bit of island hopping today. First things first, we're going back to the mainland to check out some pretty bloody Scottish history. Come along. Something pretty dire is happening right now.
There's no premium unleaded. We've got standard 95 octane.
This is quite a problem with the Highlands we've seen thus far. It's damn hard to find any, Shell V-Power, BP Ultimate, Tesco Momentum, anything like that. It's all cheap fuel, which if you're running a nice car, people tend to take pride in them and want to put the best fuel in them. So it's something worth noting. It's also something worth Googling, as about 5 minutes after filling our tank with cheap supermarket fuel, we passed an Esso garage that served Synergy Supreme. After that moronic moment, we were headed north to Glencoe, in the search for a specific pub with a specific sign barring some ex-patrons for the last 400 years.
Top car park?
So we stopped here in Glencoe for a spot of lunch, but it's a very specific place I wanted to stop. It's here, the Claghaig Arms, and that's because they've got something that's pretty cool and I want to show it off. It's this sign here, no hawkers or Campbells. So a hawker is obviously a salesperson, someone who goes from bar to bar and would be a bit of a nuisance and loudly flog all their goods. A Campbell, on the other hand, well, the Campbells were a Scottish clan, and they were quite hated in these parts due to what went down at Glencoe. In fact, what they did was so atrocious that it inspired a very important scene in an episode of Game of Thrones. I think it's pretty important. I've never actually seen Game of Thrones. Let me quickly put my camera down, then I can tell you about the Game of Thrones scene, from my perspective anyway, and then I'll tell you why it's such a big deal. What the Campbells actually did here was so bad, it inspired a scene in one of the bloodiest TV shows around. The scene came out in around 2013, so you've probably seen it if you're into Game of Thrones. If you haven't and you're going to see it, spoiler alert, cover your ears, close your eyes for the next 20 seconds. So from what I can tell in this scene, Argus Filch, the caretaker of Hogwarts, invited a load of people to a wedding, and one of those people was the guy who played the bodyguard in the BBC show. However, Filch wanted to kill the bodyguard, and therefore he had loads of his armed soldiers pretend to be regular wedding guests. And then, when he gave the signal, all his soldiers put down their cocktail sausages and cartons of Ribena and slaughtered the bodyguard and all of his family and friends and associates. It's heinous, bloody, and strategically the kind of move that could only be pulled off in the world of make-believe. Apart from it wasn't. And if anything, the real version is even more disgusting and even more brilliant maybe. And it happened right here in Glencoe. So give me 4 minutes to tell you about the Glencoe Massacre. The story of the Glencoe Massacre is more than just a single atrocity. It's about bad luck, bad people, and then an atrocity. The year was 1691, and in London, King William of Orange was primarily concerned with the 4th year of his 9-year war with France. However, he also had a slightly irksome issue closer to home. The clans in the Highlands remained fiercely independent and anti-government, and posed a possible threat to the new regime. Plus, many of them remained loyal to the ousted King James II, who was the self-proclaimed King of France. So William made them an offer. Initially he promised them wealth in return for their cooperation, but this was quickly taken off the table, and instead he promised to punish the clans with the utmost extremity of the law should they not pledge their allegiance to him by the deadline of the 1st of January 1692. Somewhat to the king's surprise, the clans all decided to take him up on this offer. However, for those who had previously sworn allegiance to King James, they now needed to get in contact with him, who was all the way over in France, in order to get released from his oath, in order to take the new one with the new king. And the confirmation of the release of their oath with King James II only arrived with the MacDonald clan of Glencoe 3 days before the 1st of January deadline. The taking of the oath to William of Orange was the responsibility of the chief of the clan, Mac-Ian. So as soon as word came from France, he headed off towards Fort William in order to pledge his allegiance and avoid the king's wrath, or at least he should have. Instead, much like an unorganised student, he left it all until the day before the deadline to get going. Still, he made it to Fort William on time, but when he got there, the sheriff whom he needed to take the oath in front of had already headed home. Therefore, Mac-Ian had to start walking another 60 miles to Inverary. He would have made it there on time too, but as he was getting close to his destination, he was captured by his enemy clan, the Campbells. They held him for a day, causing him to miss the deadline and sealing the fate of his clan and family. It was the Secretary of State, John Dalrymple, who signed the death warrant of the MacDonald clan. He despised the Highlanders, and whilst he hoped he could exact punishment on more clans, he revelled on being able to slaughter at least one. He wanted all of the clan to be cut off root and branch, young and old. The plan was evil. He ordered Robert Campbell and the soldiers from his Campbell clan to go to Glencoe, posing as unarmed friends who were seeking shelter, and the MacDonald clan, as honouring the Highland hospitality code, took in the travellers, giving them food, warmth and shelter. For 12 days the secret assassins stayed with the clan, amongst the parents, elders and children. Some of the Campbell soldiers grew fond of the families with whom they were staying, and once they became aware of the plan that was being put in motion, they tried to warn their innocent hosts to run away. But then, on the 12th night, whilst the innocent families were sleeping, in blizzard conditions, the guests showed their true purpose for being in Glencoe. They unsheathed their knives and swords and began slaughtering the men, women and children in the MacDonald community. They killed 38 people that night, including the chief, Mac-Ian. Some innocent folk managed to escape, only to then be killed by the freezing winter conditions. Just a fortunate few survived, those the soldiers had managed to successfully warn. Up to this point, Scotland had a vicious and bloody history, and not much could have shocked its citizens. However, the events of the Glencoe Massacre was so vile and cruel that the whole country was up in arms. John Dalrymple resigned and the Campbells were cursed by clans across the Highlands for their actions. Of course, as the years have passed, this event has descended into folklore and the Campbell name has lost its sour taste. But in Glencoe, it hasn't been entirely forgotten, and there's still one pub where the clan remains banned.
And I'll tell you what, that pub has got one hell of a view. Here's something else pretty sweet. Check out the new cap.
Oh yes.
Bend your head down. Stylish.
And it keeps the sun from my face.
It actually does. You're very much in shadow at the moment. Fully
Because
underexposed.
My cheeky little flip-up sunglasses aren't doing the job, so yeah, I needed another new style accessory. And
Whoa!
Matching. So, big news.
Big stuff.
Let's rock and roll.
Yes.
We were back in the car for a fairly hefty 3-hour drive to Elgol on the Isle of Skye. The A82 North was, as usual, beautiful and full of slow cars. However, the A87 that takes you west was considerably clearer and more fun, and therefore it is a driving road I can highly recommend. Provided, that is, you don't get stuck behind a lorry carrying half an oil rig, as we did for 25 miles. We were a tad cheesed off and decided to pull over and vent our frustrations by sharing all the little annoyances we discovered from putting the VX220 through its paces over the last few days.
So over the last 25 miles while we've been stuck behind that lorry, we've had a good chat about things that annoy us about the VX220. We're talking about little design flaws, not the fact that, you know, it's noisy at speed or something like that. It's noisy at speed because they took away the sound deadening in order to make the car lighter. We're talking about silly design oversights that really should have been better and just would have made using the car a whole lot easier and more comfortable. So we've got 5 things that annoy us about the Vauxhall VX220. Number 1 is maybe your greatest pet peeve of this car, the fuel gauge.
Yes, so it's digital and it goes down in litre increments, so 28, 27, 26, all the way to 5 litres, where it just purely says refill, which is incredibly annoying at some circumstances because you're not sure how low you're getting and whether you need to refill straight away or if you can get home.
Okay, number 2 is my pet peeve, and you don't even care about this one.
This is a stupid one.
This is not a stupid one. It's the door handles. They really bug me because they're so shallow under here that you can't get a really decent grip. If you've got bags or something in your hand and you go to open the door, I'm constantly finding I slip like that. It's a little thing, but also you can't help but feel like that would have been the easiest thing to improve and just make it straightforward for everybody. Right, number 3 is a security issue.
Yeah, and it's a big one. If you park up on a sunny day and want to leave the roof off, then naturally, as there's no lockable storage in the cabin, you'll put anything you're leaving behind in the boot. However, on most convertibles, the boot button is lockable, so it might be in a lockable cupboard or just keyed entry. However, with this, you can just purely lean over, pull the lever, and then gain access, meaning your car, when the roof is down, is not secure at all.
Yeah, big issue. Number 4 is a quick one. It's the heater. It's absolutely pathetic. A good heater in a convertible is incredibly important for users in the UK because it means that you can get out and enjoy your car with the roof down on far more days than you otherwise could. I really feel that Vauxhall, who of course sold this car as a more usable version of the Elise, should have included a far superior heater to actually make the car enjoyable in colder climates. Number 5 is one you may have noticed already. It's the windscreen, because the air vents reflect like crazy against it, and it's actually really distracting when you're driving in the sun. The black vents on the black dash reduce this issue as much as possible, but simply because of the placement of the vents, it's still really apparent and is a real distraction. Right, anyway, complaint session over. Next stop, Isle of Skye.
Sounds good. Off-road tip. So we're on. We're in Skye, I love Skye.
Parked up. What are we doing here?
Exploring a cave.
Oh yeah. The reason I am so excited for this is because it's time to get the boat out. There it is, under already damp towels, so it's used to wetness.
Give it 15 minutes of pumping, and that is going to be a boat.
Yeah. I'm going to send you ahead to scout where the cave is. Okay, let's go. That's it, isn't it? It is close. So we should be absolutely fine. Alright. Sink, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, let's get in the water. Now we're already, I'm just like anxious to get in the boat and get going. This is quite a nice place to launch a boat, I would say. What counts as my sailing experience? I've been on a cruise. I put 1 foot into the water and it is cold. Risk of damaging. Okay. Flipping it. This is real now, isn't it? I'm in the boat.
You're in the boat. What's that? That's your giant foot.
Okay. We're in. Okay. Okay, we're all good. We've got everything right.
Yep.
You're recording on
All devices.
on all the devices.
Okay, here is the entrance.
Is this it?
No, that's not it. Keep going. So maybe I didn't check out it at all.
Oh, brilliant. Well done. Must be the next one.
Okay, let me go have a look.
I mean, great scouting.
Yeah, sorry about that. You can get me all the gear, but I still won't have a clue. Now that looks more like it.
You've just pretty much doubled my rowing.
I had. Fortunately though, we had a breeze behind us, and a very short while later we were disembarking our super yacht. Surprisingly still dry and ready to venture into the darkness. Spa Cave is one of the most wonderful pieces of nature you can experience in all of the UK. However, before you enter, you're immediately met with the fact that it played a role in human history too. The large stone wall before the entrance tells a story of how a couple of 100 years ago, the cave was such a popular tourist attraction that locals built this wall to deter people from entering. It was later destroyed by a cannonball fired from a ship.
I wonder how many people have turned back from this point, because it's properly daunting.
It is. It's just complete darkness.
It takes just a few moments before the natural light is completely left behind. At this point, the atmosphere in the cave changes. The steepness of its limestone staircases make you apprehensive, wondering how you're supposed to climb them. However, the big surprise is that it's not so difficult. The floor and walls are covered in calcium deposits which make them unfathomably grippy, and as you continue further into the cave, the calcium shows its second trick, as the colour of your surroundings change from being a stony brown to a brilliant white, boosting the ethereal feel of the whole place.
Oh, this is good. Yeah, this is where it gets white.
This is where it gets white, yeah.
How cool. Oh,
it's quite exfoliating on the feet.
It is exfoliating on the feet. I'll tell you what though, it blows my mind how grippy this is.
Yeah.
Like, this is so steep. You couldn't walk up carpet like this.
Oh. Okay, we're getting into the second chamber now.
What is that in my pocket? That's killing me. Oh, it's my phone, of course.
These calcium cores which look super cool. Oh, the whiteness.
How steep that is.
What's really cool is look at the water flowing down. The whole thing.
Oh yeah. That's crazy.
Cool?
That is.
Okay, right. Now, I think we're going to be defeated fairly soon by going any further, because there is a big pool further down, which we'll get down to the pool, but...
The boss level in a computer game.
Yeah.
It's good. Have you ever seen the film The Descent?
Don't talk to me about things like that
Okay.
right now. So this pool down here is looking pretty deep. Yeah, I think it's pretty damn deep. I might go in a little way, because I'm a hero.
Oh.
So it's going to go dramatically deeper. But I think it's kind of dammed up. There's kind of a
Upon figuring out that the cave doesn't continue far after the pool, we decided to forego the chance of hypothermia and not cross the freezing water, but instead to turn back and head for the light of the outside world. Before we entered Spa Cave, I said that it was one of the most wonderful pieces of nature you can experience in the UK. It was a bold statement, however it's one I truly stand by. Our limited kit of just 2 GoPros is far from doing this incredible place any visual justice. It has to be experienced in person, and whilst it's far from any civilization, well off the beaten track and damn difficult to get to, whether you've come for driving, exploring or relaxation, it's possibly the place in all of Scotland I'd most recommend visiting if you're able to. Just be sure to do your research first, as getting to and from the cave can be as much of an adventure as the cave itself. But, to me at least, that just adds to the appeal of this natural wonder. After all, the best things in life are worth working for.
Alright.
Thanks for watching episode 4. Tune in tomorrow when we take to the North Coast 500 for the first time, find a way to explore a place called Anthrax Island, and offer a tour of the Vauxhall VX220. In the meantime, please do consider subscribing to my channel should you want to be kept up to date with my newest videos. Thanks.